I am wonderful. How are you doing this evening? Yes, yes, it's been beautiful all week. It has been a great week. And I'm very thankful to have Dr. Vibe here with us too. So, mhm, right.
I am blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. How you two doing? Yes, yes. Yeah. Well, you know what? The pleasure is mine, and I'd like to say kudos to both of you on the outstanding things that you're doing online and offline. So I really like to say it's an honor and a blessing and a pleasure to be in great company. Absolutely. I am born in Oshawa, Ontario, which is about an hour's drive east from Toronto. So that's where I was born at Oshawa General Hospital, and I am a Canadian. Both my parents born in Jamaica. My father was a school teacher for 32 years in the same school in the same classroom,
Mm.
and and my mother was a department supervisor at one of the most prominent hospitals in Toronto, Mount Sinai Hospital. So that's a little bit of Dr. Vibe. I've got a younger brother and three older sisters. Two of the sisters live here in the Toronto area. One lives in England. And actually, something interesting, interesting first fact, my oldest sister that lives in England, her and her husband for the last 10 years have had their own business teaching salsa dancing all around the world. So that's a whole story in itself. They have been truly entrepreneurs for the last 10, 15 years.
Mm.
I can salsa dance, but only when the cameras are off. But so that's the only time I salsa dance is when the cameras are. Just like the only time you'll hear me sing is in the car by myself and in the shower by myself. That's it.
I'm here with you. I'm here with you. The same thing.
You know? So, okay. And, uh, I can also drop you another interesting fact. My father is a member of the Vinyl Record Collectors of America Hall of Fame.
Ooh.
Grew up in a I grew up in a music household, big time.
I see that.
He's more a soul and R&B guy. Uh, I can just drop little quick stories all evening and just have some fun conversations. Every 3 months, myself and my father, we go on an internet radio video channel and we spin some of his vinyl for 3 hours.
3 hours.
Yep, 3 hours live video feed, and some of the vinyl, like he tells me what to play, and I'm the DJ, but he makes sure everything's in order, etc. And some of the vinyl that I've spun on that show, 45s that are 35, 40 years old, in mint condition. Not to take any away from the group, those are mint condition. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know what? I'll drop another for you. Pardon me? Can you repeat that? I didn't catch your last question. Can you repeat it? Oh, okay. No, many years ago, I was reading a book by a gentleman named Nelson George, very well-known musicologist, and Kinta would know who it is. It's called The Death of Rhythm and Blues. And I was reading a chapter in it, and he was talking about the early days of rhythm and blues radio, and there was a DJ named Bill Haas Allen. Well, believe it or not, in my dad's record room, there's an autographed business card, Bill Haas Allen.
That's really
Wow,
cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, what are some things that you were interested in as a child?
What was I interested in as a child? I was interested in, I guess, music, obviously, because I grew up in a musical household. I didn't have really a chance to get into too many interests because my father was very focused on education with me. Like, like when I was going to school, I didn't go. I was not allowed to go outside unless my homework was finished. And if I did go out, I had to be home before the lights came on. The street lights came on, right? And so I really didn't. It was basically all about education, education. When I graduated from high school, I got an award from the Minister of Education of the time. And I came off the stage, and I was expecting my dad to say, "Congratulations." The first thing he told me is, "You're going to university." I said, "I hadn't even had high school yet, and you're telling me I'm going to university." So it was all about studying, really, education, education. And there was a certain expectation had of me, especially having a father and a mother in those, as we say in Jamaica, professions, raised, right? So not too many interests, but as I went along in university, I started getting in the college radio station. And I started, obviously, with my dad's influence on music. I got influence in the music industry. I served some time as I was the actually third Black employee ever hired by Adidas Canada.
Really?
and here's the funny thing: at the same time, I was working for a major record label as their urban music consultant. So I was working for a major record company and Adidas Canada at the same time.
Wow.
Well, my dad wanted me to become an accountant, and I said no way. I actually after my first semester in university, I told him I don't want to do this, and I'm going to pay for my own university. So I really began to realize that I was a people centric person and people focused person. So getting getting out of school, it was all about anything involving people, because I don't think people could see me being a numbers guy with my personality. That's not my, I knew it wasn't my gift. So I guess I just worked at a number of different jobs, a lot of just service stuff, a lot of people involvement. And then when I graduated from university, thank God I graduated from university, I just said, I didn't want to read anymore because I was reading and writing things that had nothing to do with me. And I made sure I pulled something out for the conversation night that about 6 months after I was graduating from university, I walked into a black bookstore and I picked up this book called Black Men, Obsolete, Single, and Dangerous. And I went into the bookstore. I sat down, read about a chapter right there, and then I went home and read the whole book in one night. So I said to myself, some way, somehow, and this is just internet was getting to going. I said, you know what? If I could do something where I could host conversations at that time for Black Canadian men to express themselves in a comfortable environment, that was going to be my destiny. Well, just before I get to that, I want to just big you guys up like I always do, but even more so, the importance and the power of what you're doing as a Black man and a Black woman together. Very, very, very important. So I just want to big you guys up on that. And also the audience, whether you're watching this live or replay, how many consistent quality programs do you see either online or the television where it's a Black woman and a Black man consistently delivering great stuff? So I just want to big you guys up on that. And I appreciate that. And I hope all your audience appreciates that and don't take it for granted, because the only other people I know on a regular basis that do that are Ava Laura and Fitz. I don't know two others, and I'm sure there are others out there, but that's all I know. Right? I can't be everywhere. So I just want to big you guys up on that. In regards to the Black men and the profiling, actually the first conversation I did online was about Michael Vick and the dogs. So yeah, I got some history behind me. Yes. And I did that with a younger Black gentleman who was a co-host for a while. Laptop on my dining room table. Because a lot of times when we're starting off on endeavors, especially online, all you got is a laptop and a dream. A laptop and a dream. And it's interesting that Gracie mentioned this. One of my major influences in doing what I've done is Tavis Smiley. Because I watched his show, I said, you know what? That's what I want to do. I want to be a Black man hosting his own program, getting a wide variety of people on, but he was in control. And I think the real influence that took me to another level was I remember he was interviewing Harrison Ford. And if anyone knows anything
Really?
about Harrison Ford, he does not like being interviewed. No. Yeah. And he said, halfway through the conversation, Harrison Ford said, you know what? I'm really enjoying this. I said, bam. Yeah. Yes, both of them. Both of them. Those are my reference models. Yep.
Mhm.
There you go. There you Oh gosh. Oh, absolutely. And actually, absolutely. And the funny thing is,
Ah.
a number of years ago, I had a chance to meet Tavis Smiley, and he came into the room, and I said, "Hey, Mr. Smiley, you've been a great influence." He says, "What do you do?" So I had my 15 seconds there. I told him. He went away, and then he came back, and we had a 15-minute conversation about him sort of giving me some thought process, etc. And that certainly helped along the way, and I always could keep that memory along the way that
Mm.
what, that's he gave me my why.
Mhm.
You know what, I don't mind sharing it, because you know what, most people won't do it. What I'm going to say, this 4-letter word here, and you guys know they ain't going to do the work, right? Not going to do the work. So in regards to what I do,
Mhm.
first thing, I don't like to use the word interview. I say conversation, because many people, when they come on
Mhm.
a platform like this one the first time, they're intimidated. And we've been through interviews, job interviews. A lot of people don't like that. So right there, I say conversation. We're going to have a conversation. And I'll be totally honest. I say to people,
Mhm.
the only thing I'm going to ask you that I know is, tell me a little bit about yourself. Because most people, the thing they think
Not everybody.
they are comfortable with the most is talking about themselves. Most people, not everybody, but most people. And then all it is from there is the greatest gift that
Absolutely.
someone that does what we do have
Absolutely.
is our ears. So you have to listen to what that other person or persons are saying, and then make sure you come back with what they're saying. Because if the person in the other seat or
Mhm.
chairs acknowledges that you are listening to them, that's a form of respect. And when people are respected, they'll
Mhm.
feel comfortable. And when people are comfortable, they'll share more with you. And I have a little bit of an advantage on Blab, because before I came on Blab, I did many podcasts. So that was even a better thing for me, because
Mhm.
I had to engage with people without even seeing them. So what
Right.
I do on Blab is easy compared to what I do when I do on a podcast. Because with the podcast, I'm not seeing what that person's doing. I know they could be picking their nose, they could be combing their hair, etc. So I've got to really be the conversation.
Mhm.
They're there, and my role is to make them feel comfortable. And I'll be scary again. I've done over 1,100 conversations between online, television,
Mhm.
etc. I've only really prepped for maybe 15 of them. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Oh God. There's so many, and I'll pull one out. The first time I had a conversation with someone I had never met before. I mean, truly never met before. And I'll give you this story. A common friend of mine said, "Hey, you need to meet such and such a person." I said, "Okay, what about him?" He was I think, 6th or 7th degree black belt. Grew up in Toronto with a black mother and Italian father. So I go to his house, knock on the door, I say, "Hello, sir. Hello, how you doing?" "Fine." We sat at his kitchen table and
Wow.
he shared his life story with me for 3 hours. And absolutely amazing. And one thing I will never forget, and I still get emotional about it, is that we were sitting across from each other. I said, about half an hour in, I said, "Tell me about
Just
your
from that
mother."
one
And he
question.
began to cry. Just from that one question. And I will never forget that moment. That was one of the moments I said, "You know what?
Mhm.
This is the right thing for me to do." When someone I've never met before, especially an older man, can just openly show emotion
Mhm.
to me like that, that was a game-changing moment. And I remember when I left his house, he said two things. They said, "First of all, I want you to come back and I'm going to cook you some pasta." But actually here, and the second thing he said was
Interesting.
that,
So
"I want you to write my life story."
how did you take that?
And I said,
Mhm.
humbling, because someone, again, when someone just felt so comfortable that had never met me before, that they were willing to let me in their life to
Mhm.
the point saying, "You know what? I'd like you to do this for me." And the gentleman has
Mm.
he actually represented Canada in the Olympics. He has his 7th degree black belt. He's still
Well,
teaching young people today judo and taekwondo. And like he shared stories with me, like when he was growing up, he couldn't go more than a circumference of 3 blocks away
so
from his home, or he'd get beat up.
is that when he decided to learn taekwondo?
Yeah, actually interesting. I don't remember. Again, this is a long time ago. I don't remember where that came up. I don't know. It's probably a little bit later. Here's another funny story for you. Because his
Mhm.
father was an Italian and he was an apprentice, once once he graduated from high school, he became an apprentice. He was
Mm.
the first black man in his union. But of course, listening, I said, "Well, how
Wow.
long were you the
30
only black man in your
years.
union?"
Now, I
30
really want
years.
to ask this question because you're speaking about this
Can
interview,
you
and you talked about how powerful it was. But I really want to know, in your opinion, how important are the questions that you ask during your conversations?
abs- well, they're absolutely important, but the most important thing is, I call them conversation pieces or questions, whatever. I use conversation pieces because I tell them I want to have a conversation with you. So I'll say, "Hey, here's
Mhm.
another conversation piece I want to would like to delve into." The questions are important as
Mhm.
long as you keep them
Mhm.
relevant to what the guests are saying. If they are not relevant to what they're saying, you could lose them,
Mhm. Mhm.
because again, it's showing you're not listening. Right. So as I tell people who come on my platform,
Mhm.
I'm steering the ship, you're driving the ship. It's not
Mhm.
about me, it's about you. I want you to shine.
You know, one of
So
the things I
what am I
like
going to
about you,
Exactly.
do to
and
make them
Yes.
and I
shine?
like
Ask
about
them about
interviewers
what
such
they're
as
telling me
yourself is
about.
that when I feel like you're creating a platform for your guests. That it's not about, just I'm Dr. Vibe, listen to Dr. Vibe. And yeah, we got this guy here, but it's Dr. Vibe. You know what I mean? Like that's
Absolutely.
what a lot of interviewers do. And it's so annoying to me. Like I love the fact that when I tune into your show that I'm gonna meet somebody or I'm gonna, you know what I'm saying? Like you're gonna bring something to us. And and we like you because you, like you said, you steer the ship, right? So talk to us about this notion of having your guests be the platform rather than making it about the platform being about your guests rather than just being about the host.
Absolutely. One of the things I try to do, it doesn't always happen, but a key thing is engage with your guests before they actually come on the platform. So whether it's email, phone, or even try to do a test with them, get them comfortable before they come on. Develop a little bit of a relationship or rapport before they come on. Even if it's by email, that's what you want to, as I say to my people come on, first time, I want to set you up for success. Right? I've done a lot of these. Trust me, I'm here to set you up for success. Right? So when I do, especially with new people, and I love having new people come on because a perfect example was a few weeks ago. There's a lady named Pepper Miller, who is, for those who don't know her, she's an outstanding lady. One of the people that Fortune 500 companies go to when they want to know more about demographic purchasing power of the African American market. I have known Pepper Miller for 3.5 years. I reached out to her. We did a podcast a long time ago. We keep in contact via email once in a while. I said, you know what? We got to get you on Blab. Long story short, we tested this and back and forth for 3.5 months. She was on a few weeks ago. She goes, you know what? I like this. I want to do a series with you about, marketing and advertising to African Americans. Fine. One of the things I fully believe in is one of my mentors taught me something called the encore effect. And what you want to do, whether you're having a conversation with someone online or people online, or if you're presenting to a group of people, when you go to a good show,
they clap,
at the end of the show, what do most people do?
More.
They clap. What are they asking for? They're asking for an encore. So that is one of my thought processes whenever I come on a conversation online, that people want more. So when you turn off that button on Blab or shut down that podcast, it's the greatest effect is not only does your guests want more, but your audience wants more. So that's one of the things I always go into. Encore effect. How can, at the end, and you always ask them after the conversation, did you enjoy it? Is there anything that could have been improved on? No, that was great. Like, I'm sure Kiana and Kincha, you've had the experience where someone comes on and after they finish, they say, wow, that went by so fast. Right? And it's always great, especially the person
what I
get a lot at the beginning, at the end, wants to keep on going and going. You got to shut them down. You only have
20 minutes with our guests, and then they come on, and then like 2 hours later, they're like, you got to kick them off.
Exactly. I can relate to that too. A few months ago, there was a gentleman named, what's his name? Andre.
Oh, wow.
I'm forgetting his name now. This gentleman is probably the top African-American winemaker. I'm going to look up his information here. And his PR person came on or emailed me and said, he can only do 20 minutes. An hour and a half later, I had to kick the man off.
Oh my gosh. that says a lot about you and how you move through your conversations.
Yeah, actually, his name is Andre Mack. Yeah, actually, yeah, his name is Andre Mack, and you know what I love about him? His label of wines is called. I'll tell you right now. It's called Mouton Noir.
Corey, we're going to go to you in
French,
a few. We want to ask a couple more questions, and then we'll go to our people in the audience. So just give us a moment. But you know, other people who podcast, do video streaming,
Sure.
we'll say the ones that are not as good as the Dr. Vibes of the world. But there's a reason why I bring them up.
And the Kianas and Kintes, please. I don't walk alone. Thank you very
much. They help us and they hurt us at the same time. And I'm gonna tell you how. They help us in this regard. Or let's start with the hurt first. They hurt us because some people who are really good people who have a lot to share with the audience, because they've been on maybe some of those, the people who do the gotcha stuff, the ones rude to their guests. They have such a bad experience sometimes on those shows that they're like, I don't want to ever go on a podcast again. And that's unfortunate. But then you have those who do what we do and they ask the same tired questions and all of that kind of stuff. So these people who do a lot of interviews are really good. They go on those shows and they're just like, oh, they're going to ask me the same thing. Then they go on a Dr. Vibe show and then they actually have a conversation and they actually are able to speak and all of that. They love you because a lot of the other people are not doing that. So I think we all have a part to play in this thing, whatever we want to call it, podcasting and stuff. And I just wonder, as someone who's been doing it for so long, what do you, I love to ask the legacy question, but what do you think your legacy as a podcaster, as a video streamer is, or what would you like to be known for and all that?
Simply to have created a platform where people felt comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Really and truly, that they, and I've done many types of conversations.
Yeah.
Like one of the things I've been doing a manhood show for the last 2.5 years. Right. So when someone tells me men don't talk, I said, okay, here's the link. Come back to me after. But I've also had a lot of great conversations with women. Another short story. A number of years ago, I was having a conversation with someone online. She was on there, and the lady that was booking her said, oh, after you're finished, can you please call me? So I just want to find out how it went. Said, okay. Had the conversation with her client, called her. We were chatting, and I said, you know what? I think you should come on the show. She goes, what am I going to talk about? I said, you know what? I'm sure there's something you want to chat about. And she said, you know what? I want to share about how I was molested between the ages of 10 and 15 years old by family members. So realize, and I am very blessed because it was only the second time I spoke to this lady. And again, this is podcasting. I'm not even visually seeing her. And then she felt comfortable enough to come on and chat about that. Game-changing moment. Game-changing moment for me. That told me that it was at another level that someone would chat about that. But I've also, I think another key thing, I don't know if we're going to get to it, is if you're going to be doing this, not only listen to your guests, listen to your audience. The reason why I'm saying that is I'm at the part of my journey now. I don't have to spend a lot of time bringing topics to the platform because I listen to what people say and say, hey, we're going to do this. Perfect example. Before we came on this recording night, I asked Kiana a very interesting question. I said, Kiana, I love your name. What's your name all about? And she started researching away. I said, how many times have you in your life had someone come to you and say, what's your name?
They don't.
You know, what's your name all about? So those are, I'm always looking for those things. You have to be sometimes disruptive in a good way. And I'll give a perfect example of disruption.
Right.
Uber is a great example, right? Taxi industry has been around for years and years and years. When Uber came in, it's disrupted the taxi industry. Sometimes you have to be disruptive. Sometimes you got to observe the masses and do the opposite. So I hope that makes some sense and you can incorporate it in online conversations or just even dealing with people.
No.
I
love it. I love it.
Chatterboxing too much, as we say.
Yeah, going, because some of the things that you were saying when it comes to podcasting, the woman that you were speaking with, but I really want to know how comfortable are people that you've experienced from podcasting, actually just speaking, compared to actually being on video and people can see them?
It's a great question. When I do, and I do some research of who I want on the show, but again, it's very simple research. And if you want to know how I get people on the show, I'll tell you that if you want. But I offer them and say, okay, do you want to do live video online, or do you want to do audio only? Again, giving someone a choice where they're going to feel most comfortable. Because the more comfortable you are, the more comfortable they are, the better quality content you're going to probably get. Right? So that's where I come from, in that these days it seems people are getting a little bit more, especially new people, a little bit more and more comfortable with video, and video is becoming more and more a dominant thing. Actually, Kente, I want to come back to the question you answered about providing. I also want to not only provide an environment where people are comfortable, but also to provide an environment where other people of color can continue what we're doing, because there's still not enough people of color doing
and
this.
Unfortunately, a lot of the ones that are doing it, they're from Mars or some planet other than Earth. So, not to be judgmental.
So that just came back. It just came back in my mind, because one of the things that is very important to me is every success should have a successor. Right? When Steve Jobs died, Apple didn't die. They had someone replacing him. When Barack Obama leaves office, there's going to be someone else, president of the United States, right after that. Ahmed Wright, kingship or queenship. Very important.
That is very, very important.
One thing I appreciate about your show. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
go ahead.
I might need to refresh, but I did want to let everybody know, if you guys have any questions specifically for Dr. Vibe, please feel free to ask them. I know there's a lot of people popping in here now, but please, if you have any questions that you want to ask, just feel free. I know you guys are engaged and listening, and I'm so happy that everyone is here. But I'm going to refresh because I think it might be me. It might be me.
Okay, no problem. Well, one other thing I want to put out there is that I'm not perfect. Okay, I am not perfect. I love making mistakes because they teach me and they show how passionate I am to get better each day. So I'm not perfect. So just want to put it out there. I mess up just like the best of them, but I bounce back.
I've had some pretty embarrassing moments doing podcasting and whatnot. So I know exactly what you're saying. But a lot of times when we do make mistakes, really the person who knows it is really us. Like the audience sometimes don't know it, so the time they don't know it. So that's what I always tell people: don't panic. What I noticed too is if you're in technical issues, because we're doing live shows, and things are not going right, don't panic. Stay cool, because if you stay cool, the audience stays cool, the guest stays cool, your co-host stay cool, and you just work through it. because it's going to be what's going to be. So you just work through it, try to get it right. And, you know, and I noticed that it seems to work out, and people understand it's live, and, you know, some things are beyond your control. So I think that's the one thing about it is a forgiving, especially the people who really understand, you know, they are. So that's why you don't panic. But if you're panicking and you're like, oh my God, then the audience picks up on it. And yes. You know, it's like, what the hell? You know, what's going on here? You know? So, but one thing I really, really like about you is that in your show is you talked about you do shows on manhood and womanhood and stuff like that. And unfortunately, when men and women do shows about the opposite sex, it becomes combative. It becomes, you know, it becomes like this thing where I don't think it helps at all, you know. And I don't know if one side can, you know, claim to be the fairer of the other. And one thing I like about with your conversations is that it's never male bashy or women bashy or anything like that. It's always productive. Can you talk to that about having productive conversations about the opposite sex or another race or whatever?
Yeah. Well, and this is one of the things I've been really blessed with, and especially it's always been going on, the challenges with race relations in the world. But again, obviously what's been going on in the United States and in Canada, I'm getting diversity of participants, and that's very, very important to me. You know, I think that's really important. I think in regards to what you just said, in regards to getting as much as possible, I say I want OQP OQP on my platform, only quality people. And I think that is set by the hosts and the consistency. Because if you have consistently good quality, good guests, that sets the bar for you. And even those who come in who don't like it, either one or two things are going to happen. A, they're not going to feel comfortable. They're not going to come back. Or B, you just click them out because they're not adding positive value. At the end of the day, it is your platform. And if someone isn't adhering, I've had, and it's happened once in a while, people have not present themselves in positive matter or way. And I say, okay, I tell them, I don't accept this. Please do not continue. If you continue, I block them. Because I just don't, you know, I want to give someone a fair chance to present themselves properly. If they don't, I give them a warning. If they can't adhere by it, it's not good, because more importantly, it's affecting the audience and it's bringing down the audience. And the audience is going to look on me saying, why is Dr. Vibe allowing this on his platform? That's not like him. You got to shut it down. You got to shut it down. But again, it's, hey, Ricardo, what is up? Actually, hey, what's up to everyone on the line? But yeah, it's basically, that's when it's important to be a very good host. You set the standards. You don't want to have to come in and pull someone out, but if you have to, you do. Because remember, it's not about you, it's about your audience. And if something isn't going right, your audience is going to say, you know what, you're not passionate about what's going on there. Just another thing about in regards to sound quality and things like that, people can tolerate iffy video. They won't tolerate bad audio.
Yeah.
They won't tolerate bad audio. And just building on it too, I typed it in the side there. Don't get good, get done.
You know what's so funny is, you know, using this platform, Blab, there's certain people who are used to Blab After Dark, as we call it, and, you know, conducting themselves a certain way on Blab.
Yep. And
I notice when they come into your Blabs, and maybe they come on, that they sit straight up in their chair and they, you know, they conduct themselves in the Dr. V way. I love it.
Well, you know, again, it's what I've said. I set those expectations, and I want people to know what they're getting into. And if they don't like, I don't want everyone to like what I do. I don't want everyone to like what you and Kiana do. I don't want everyone to like what a Ava Laura, a Fitz, a Ricardo, a Dante, and a Med are doing.
Mhm.
We just want only quality people, right? We don't want everybody. We want the right people, because when you get the right people, those right people will influence those who ain't doing right. Simple as that.
That's right.
So you set the standard. You drive the ship.
That's right.
In that case, you drive the ship. It's your platform. You set the expectations and set them and be consistent and persistent. And if you're going to do something like this, Dr. Vibe will not pay attention to you unless you do 10 of them.
Well, have
Once
you
done 10,
witnessed
I'll pay
that
attention.
moment actually on the show when that happened, when that transition happened, and people actually spoke up about being educated? Okay, so you were saying that having the right guest is very, very important, and how they're able to really help bring more awareness. And so, has there been a moment on any of your shows where you actually witnessed the awareness happening in the comments and
oh gosh. Oh yeah. I'll give a perfect example, and I'll use someone that's on Blab right now. The other night, I just started a new series called What Do Blacks Want and Why? And I put what do blacks want and why when it came to housing. Ahmed, who is on this Blab right now watching, he knows his stuff when it comes to housing. The questions that were coming from C. Will, and I can't remember the other gentleman on there. I just sat back.
You always sit back. You're like, I just sat
back and just let them roll. I was just steering the ship.
Not me. It's
hands free. So ideally, Kiana, that's what I want on every time I come on. I want the audience to engage with that person or engage with each other, and at the end of the day, I want to make ideally they came out better leaving the Blab than when they came.
Now, before we introduce who's stepped into the window, because this is a simulcast, so this is going out not just video but audio as well. So we want to those people who are listening go, wait, who is this other voice that's on there? So I want to take a moment to recognize the people that are in the chat room, and I'm gonna start off. We have Ahmed, we have C. Will, the builder, we have Dante, we have Corey, we have Tish, and of course we have Ava Laura, Ricardo, Miss Powell, +1, and also who?
The split verse.
Devin.
And Gracie. Grace,
yes,
did you say Gracie? Miss Gracie.
It's Tish.
That's Tish. Okay.
Yes. So who's stepped in the square? We have of course, Ricardo and Devin. How you guys doing?
Much better now.
All right.
Oh, one other thing. I'm going to jump in. The other person that was on the conversation with Ahmed, it was Junia, who actually got associated with Ricardo and Askia on a conversation that I hosted. So that's a whole other story. But I'll let Ricardo speak. That conversation was an epic conversation. But go on. Sorry to interrupt. There's a perfect conversation piece too. I was on, I think it was maybe the first time or second time at Askia on Blab. Right. And Ricardo and I live in Toronto. We were at an event a number of months ago. I said, Ricardo, you gotta know about this thing about Blab. You got to know about this. He's going, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? So Ricardo, I look up to Ricardo. He's going to say, they're saying this story again, but I'll make it short. So we were on, Askia and I were on a Blab.
Right.
And all of a sudden I see Ricardo jump in the audience. I say, get in here, man. Come on, man. Get in here. So Yeah, so we had an after blab. Ricardo and Askia rolled for about an hour and a half. They had never met each other before, and that's another wonderful thing when you're hosting conversations, when you can have people who have no knowledge of each other connect with each other. I don't like connect, engage with each other. And even if they didn't engage with each other again, I'd be happy because it was a magical moment.
Yeah,
Long
that did
story
come out of
short,
that.
I
That was
had
the
them
first-
on another conversation called Black Men Who Have No
That
Calendars.
was the first time I was on.
There's a gentleman. Oh, as the first one? No, but I mean Junior.
Right.
No, but I
Yes.
think Junior came on that conversation and asked you guys questions. And you're right. So, you're right. Junior came on
He
the
was like,
conversation. Junior came to the blab,
Sitting above the
sitting at his
cubicle.
desk at his work.
He's like, look, this is the phone ring. I gotta answer it. But she's like, I'll be right here. And he was like, taking calls, and I remember that.
Funny. I'm being called out right now.
I remember that Junior ended up. He was asking questions
But
how to
no,
become an
yeah,
entrepreneur,
Blab
how
is
to
a
do things, and we were talking to him about what to do and how to do it. And Dr. Vibe told me like a few weeks later, I'm like, the guy actually quit his job and like left and went to do his stuff. And I was like, what? This dude did that? I was like, cool. So he is like, as I call it, left plantation, you know? He took off and did his thing. So I'm like, really good. Glad to hear that.
Wow.
But
yeah, that was an example of people being on the side and just taking information and then like running with it. So
yeah, but those. You know, and I'm seeing more and more that there's a core of us that we're taking action. We're taking action. And that's the wonderful thing that's happening. And like I said, that again, that's another moment with Junior. I go, what? He said he came on and said, Dr. Vibe, I left my job. Ricardo and Askia, man, they're the world to me. I just went, wow. Like, and there was another, again, on the same conversation, or it was a different one. Ricardo and Askia were speaking with a gentleman who had a website. I don't know what's going on with it, but he was trying to build, or is attempting to build something for Blab.
It was kind of like Blab-esque connection.
Yeah. For African Americans or blacks around the world.
We were talking. He had like views.ca or .io or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And he was just kind of like, what do you think of, the branding, the website and all that stuff? And we were checking it out and things look great. It looked really good. And I ended up checking his domain for a .com and found that the exact same spelling .com was available. I said, dude, like I thought it wasn't available, which is why you went with the IO. But he ended up, I told him, I said, listen, if you have the .com, buy it and redirect it to your deal. And like within 5 minutes, he goes, hey, check this out. And he put a link in. I'm like, yeah, views. I know. I clicked it. He's like, no. And then he started looking at it again. And I'm like, he actually bought the domain and had it redirected like while we're on the Blab talking like live, like within minutes of us bringing that up. He goes, I didn't even think about that. I'm like, yeah, if you blow up and I have Facebook.com and you have Facebook.io, I'm like, I'm getting all that traffic. So I'm still checking every now and then. I go and check out his views to see how he's doing on his mailing list. I'm like, come on, let's see this move, man. So that was interesting. That was a cool night too.
Yeah. So it's all about, and I think the underlying thing is relationships. Really and truly, it's relationships, because I wouldn't be blessed with that sort of wonderful positive effect for someone in our community if I didn't have a solid relationship with Ricardo, if I didn't have a decent online relationship with Askia. So it's all about the relationships. The relationships are so key. So it's just really, really important. And
you always tend to play this down, but the host of the event that creates that space, that safe space where people know how to behave and sit up straight when they come in, is often underlooked, but is a critical piece to creating this space where people can actually come in and share stuff and be vulnerable and give things away and be open. Because there are some people that do interviews and they're like, and it's like, it's just it's like sandpaper, but the space that you create is very open, very flat. You know, if you need to, you step in there, you shut things down, you keep it in line. People know they can play, but there are edges when it comes to Dr. Vibe, you know.
Oh yeah.
And it's
yeah.
It's not easy either. It's not easy.
If I do, no, it's not easy, and that's again where the listening comes in.
Right.
You know, you've got that you gotta steer. You're steering that ship.
Right.
Right.
It looks easy after you're good. How many have you done, Dr. Vibe? How many interviews like this? Give us the number.
Total. Over 1,100. Over 1,000 easy.
Dr. Vibe.
That's why like he's chilling.
Dr. Vibe's gonna be doing conversations on the other side as well.
Oh my goodness.
You get up to heaven, he's like, hey, just 1 minute.
So what is your name?
How did you get here?
No, but you know, but you know, it was interesting. Many years ago, I saw an interview with Larry King, and someone asked him, "How did you become so successful?" And he said, "You know what?
I want to ask you a little bit about that because as coaches, the question why can be a little bit defensive, right? People can become very defensive when you ask why, because it's kind of like pricking at you know, it's like it's pricking at them a little bit. So you know, how do you really ask why without someone being so defensive? Yes.
Well, I'm also a certified empowerment coach, so I know where you're going with this. So again, it comes with a lot of evaluated experience and intuition. And again, that's why it's key, if you can, to develop that relationship before you turn on the record button. If you can develop that relationship before you turn on that record button, it helps. And again, listen to what that person says. Listen, just ask them what they're sharing. Look, if I ain't gonna talk to LeBron about hockey unless he's talking about hockey, right? There's an old practice called mirror and matching. Mirror and matching what that person's saying. There are people, again, Ahmed is a great example. Ricardo's a great example. Ricardo has so much knowledge in entrepreneurship. Him and Askia, they have so much knowledge. I'm just gonna, as long as I can keep up with their conversation, but there's some things that they're better at than me. Humble yourself, right? When this guy Junior came on and talked about, oh, this, that, the other thing, I shut up because I don't have the wealth of experience that a Ricardo, like an Askia, have about entrepreneurship. When Ahmed was on the other night, I hardly said a word because he knows more than I do about real estate, especially in the United States. I don't live in the U.S. I just want to make sure the conversation, I just steer in the ship.
Fantastic. I'm blessed. Highly favored. A man for miracles and a solution.
Welcome to the show, Ahmed. How you doing?
Boom.
There you go. I love it. That'll be $50 copyright infringement.
I just wanted to say I've been in a lot of conversations with Dr. Vibe, and when he asks why, I know from the tone of his voice that his why is always with love. So I never ever felt pricked or programmed because I know it's with love. And he asks a lot of difficult questions, but I love it because it makes me really think about it, not just during the conversation where I can give an answer, but later I'm processing it for myself to say, he asked why, and that's a very good question. And then I start asking myself the question why. So I may have responded to his why, but now he's planted a seed in me for the why to continue. If that makes any sense.
Thank you. I received that. And just building on to that too, one of the things I've been very blessed with is always trying to find opportunities for people out there who I really respect and care for. So if there's a way that I can help people, even if it's small, like it's fun. I was doing a sharing session with a group of young entrepreneurs the other day, and I asked them, is there anything I can help you with? And they're just going, oh, I don't know.
Yes.
Said, guys, I have an online show. I can promote your business. You're thinking too hard, right? Just come on. And it's unfortunate. We're living in a world where a lot of people make things too complicated. And that's one of the reasons why I like doing what I do. I make things easy for you. When you come on the show, I want to make it easy. Because also, too, if you do good conversations, Yana, Kinte, Ava Laura, others out there, two things are going to happen. Actually, three. One, they're going to enjoy it. Two, your audience is going to enjoy it. Three, actually four things. That person is going to tell other people about your platform. Four, they probably tell people who they say, oh, you know what? You should get this person on your show. I'll get them in contact with you. So when you're doing good conversations, you will start to develop brand ambassadors. People who will promote your conversations, what you're doing that you don't even know. You will get brand, and I'll give you a perfect example of this. There is about 3.5 years ago, and if I'm long-winded, cut me if you need to. But there's a lady, I was online, saw this magazine online called Cuisine Noir magazine. Okay, check it out online. It's the only African American magazine, online and traditional, devoted to African Americans in food, wine, and travel. Okay, had her on the platform. She's been on my platform at least 4 or 5 times a year for the last 3 years. Every time she releases a new edition, she wants to come on the Dr. Vibe platform. So we developed a relationship. I said, you know what? She came to me 1.5 years ago, said, you know what? I want to get distribution of the magazine in Toronto. Can you help me? Got her distribution in Toronto. Earlier this year, she said, Dr. Vibe, we're going to have some people who are brand ambassadors for the magazine. I'd like you to be our only international brand ambassador. Okay. Dr. Vibe, we're doing bookmarks for our brand. We want to put you on our bookmarks. Okay. Dr. Vibe, here's Andre Mouton Noir. We need you to have him on your platform. Again, done. So you're always wanting to have those strong relationships. You know, Ava Laura, I'm sure, is another testimony. Ava Laura and Fitz have been introduced to a pile of people through the hard work that they've done online and offline. So I can't stress enough the importance of the relationships. One of the things I do every week, almost every week, on a Saturday, take about 15, 20 minutes, call people up just randomly. How you doing?
I actually got your tweet today.
Even if it's a voicemail,
I was a little tied up, but I did get your tweet. And you know, it brought you top of mind. But the one thing I want to say lastly, and I'm gonna jump out, is it looks like I froze too. But one thing I want to say is Dr. Vibe gives people a safe place to be, you know, and if I was going into battle, then he would be one of the people that I would want to be by my side, because I know that he cares, he provides the environment.
I'm humbled by it.
And I know from having many talks with him that the warrior in him is there. So I appreciate him.
Thank you. You know, I'm at the point of my journey now where almost every conversation I have, I think of a person that, you know what, you need to meet that person. And what I do, and again, this has nothing to do with the show, but this is, I call myself a connector first, not a broadcaster anymore, because I want us to get to the solution faster. You know, and you know, perfect example again. Ava Laura's on watching this right now. I remember when I told Pepper Miller about Blab. In fact, I said to Ava Laura, Ava Laura, when I do my first Blab with Pepper Miller, I want you there. I had a lot of cancellations and all that, but I said, I want you there. And again, I'm not perfect, but it meant a lot to me to keep my promise to Ava Laura. And actually, before that, we actually had a phone call with Pepper Miller, myself, and Ava Laura. Pepper Miller never met Ava Laura before. Pepper Miller had some questions. Pepper Miller just went on for an hour, just dropping, as we say, knowledge bombs. Just dropping knowledge bombs. So I know it's a little bit all over the place, but I'm just sharing different stories throughout the journey, and I'm hoping that it's making a little bit of a positive impact. Even, yes, Pepper is a beast. She is a beast. There's no doubt about that. And any black woman who
I think everyone is
Procter
really enjoying this conversation, and I think that it speaks volumes about who you are and how you contribute. And so we didn't necessarily have a topic, and it just sounds like that the heart of this whole conversation is really about I mean, I've learned a lot more about etiquette, because I've never done podcasts before. You know, I've never done anything like this before. I've done Periscopes, but this is something that really speak volumes as far as the respect, the honor, and the contribution that you bring to the platforms, all the different platforms that you use. And we are very thankful for what you do and how you do it and how you really impact all of us. And it sounds like every single person, like you've touched people in different ways. Ahmed shared how he touched, plus one shared how he's, but you're talking about these relationships. And in all these different stories that you're sharing, it sounds like the impact and just what you have done and how you have created this space, it really changes lives. So, you know, what's that?
Thank you.
No, go ahead.
Thank you so much. I'm very touched and very humbled by that. One of my mentors said a long time ago, everybody has a six-figure story, it's just getting it out of them. Or more importantly, just providing the environment where they'll share that story, because it will impact at least one person. You know, I'm really humbled by the love that's being shown here, and I love you back. I love you back, because you know what? Dr. Vibe has some of his moments, and being able to just jump on or just seeing you guys and just the encouragement, because it's nice now because there's more people involved in doing this now than when I started, but it's still not enough, but there are more. And it's not over until we win. Right? It's not over till we win. Go ahead, Kenta. I know you want to say something.
You know, one thing too that says a lot about you, Dr. V, is that you know, women are traditionally much more easy. It's easier for them to show affection for another person, you know, especially of the same sex. I mean, as far as really respecting them and all that. Guys, we tend to, if it's another guy that we think is cool, we usually be like, yeah, or we like, like we don't do that. But I notice a lot of men, they have no problem saying, man, this is the real deal. This is the guy, and that says a lot because, we don't normally do that as men to each other like that. Guys that we respect, that we have no problem just coming out and saying that. And I think a lot of it is because you have provided this platform for guys to have, for brothers specifically, that can, they can feel like they can speak on these different issues and all of that. And I want to ask you a couple of things.
Sure.
When you first started this, many moons ago, could you have ever envisioned this path, this journey that you've been on for X amount of years? I mean, were you one of those people, I knew I was going to be here, or is it any of it surprising to you at all?
Mm.
Well, that's a really great question, and I'm gonna use a cross-cultural answer for this. So when I was getting first started in this, I was using a antiquated, that doesn't exist anymore, a website called mypodcast.com.
I know about it.
Don't know if it can. Okay, it was free. It was this. It was that. But the thing is, it didn't give any stats. And back then, I was so concerned about my stats. So let's admit it. Most people are lazy, and Dr. Vibe has some lazy bones in him. I went onto Google, typed in podcasting shows. Again, I have some lazy bones in me. Clicked on the first show. It's called the Podcaster Studio. Clicked on it. Okay, let me call this guy. I'm lazy. It's the first one. Let me call. White gentleman out of Washington. Within 24 hours, he turned my show around. Before that time, he said, I didn't think about being big, but he said something that I'll never forget. He said, Dr. Vibe, your goal is, when it comes to Black men having great conversations on your online, you want them to think about you first. Never forgot that line. And now in anything I do that I really am caring and passionate about, especially involves people, I want as much as possible. If not me first, I'm in their sphere of thinking. So that, I hope that answers your question. But then it led on to another thing. Back then, I wanted to have other guests on the show, more than one, and I had no idea. Well, the same gentleman, Ray Ortega, Podcaster Studio, I said, Ray, I want to have multiple people back then via phone on the show. He introduced me to a gentleman. Oh, I'm going to forget. It's sad that I'm going to forget. Mike Phillips, white gentleman, North Carolina, 50 years of audio engineering experience. I said, Ray, Mike, I need to do this. I need to have people on my show. He says, Dr. Vibe, if you want people on your show, you have to buy a mixer. I said, Mike, the only mixers I know is when I go to the club at night. He said, no, you get it. We spent 7 hours over a phone in total getting it right. Always, yeah. One of my philosophies is always make your future bigger than your past. So those are just some stories cross-culturally that I've always said. In the early days, I always thought big. I'm always not thinking one step ahead. I'm thinking 2 steps ahead. Right? Because if I get boring, you guys ain't gonna follow me anymore. Even, yeah, you'll stay for a while, but if Dr. Vibe starts getting whacked, you're gonna drop me. So I gotta keep.
Can you share with us? Because before we started, you were speaking about how people will be able to actually click and find the different shows. So can you share that right now? So many people here. This would be a perfect time for you to do that.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, you know what? I don't want to drop it now because it's not fully populated, but by next week, Dr. Vibe on his blabs, already what I do, and this is another thing I do on most of my blabs, I put a link where people can give responses to that conversation. Reason why I do that is a number of things. Most 95% of them have given that conversation a rating of 9 or better. One thing. Second of all, a number of the people have given me their email address. So in the near future, I'll be contacting them in regards to these are things coming up, etc., etc. So now coming next week, you'll be able to, during my conversation, you'll be able to click on a link. Actually, you'll be able to save and copy that link, and you'll be able to see via a spreadsheet what's coming up, date, time, and platform on the with Dr. Vibe. And then there'll be another tab on it that shows upcoming conversations. And how do hey, Mom's Winning, and I owe her a big time email. That's another subject too. I just diverse for a second. Her and a gentleman named John Haynes a few moments ago, both of them together probably have a combined experience of about 30 to 40 years in HR.
No,
so we had
tons of questions.
What questions do you have about HR?
Oh, okay.
Yes. So, okay, and Mom's Winning, we will do that in August. So get ready for that in August. But yeah, getting back to what I was sharing about, there'll be another tab with upcoming conversation topics. And 90% of the conversation topics I put up and do on Blab or podcasts are because of what I'm listening and hearing people say and are passionate about. And I've been blessed now that I've got a network of people that if they know more about the subject than I do, I can contact and say, hey, would you like to come on and share about this? Yes. Perfect example. Mom's Winning, John. I knew them separately, introduced them to each other, bam. So hopefully it'll be an ongoing series about HR questions. They have more experience. I provide a safe environment. Bam, off to the races.
Now, anyone who does a show on Lab, they know that there's 2 shows that you do. Every time you do a show, you're doing 2 shows.
We're gonna go there. We're gonna go here.
You have the show that's recorded, which was always really good and cool and interesting and everything. But then sometimes the better show is the after Blab, where you're as someone who does podcasting and someone who's been doing this for a long time. You're like, sometimes in your head, you're like, dang, I wish we recorded this. This is, like this is some gold right here, or the after party, as they say. So many. I mean, there's been so many times where, people feel more free because that red light is not on. They feel like they can, share more. What's your take on the after show and all of that?
Well, you know what? It's interesting. When I first came on Blab, I saw people were doing it, and I said, okay, let me just try it out. And sometimes the after Blab is a completely different entity than the Blab you're having. But you know something? That's where I started really listening to what people wanted to have in conversations. And I would say at least 50% of what I put on conversations come from after Blabs.
Yep.
Again, listening is key. And it's just been amazing. It's almost an expectation. If I said I have to leave right after a Blab, people get vexed at me. So I gotta. I realize, and I think recording. Coming back to something that Ricardo said earlier that I think is very important. There's more work to doing these than you audience see. A lot of work. You can make it a lot or you can make it a little. I'll just condense. I could go. There's a whole session in itself, but you have to find people you want to have. You got to reach out to those people you'd like to have. You got to hope that they respond to you. You got to ask them, when are they available? You got to ask them, what format are they comfortable with? You got to decide, are you going to do a Dr. Vibe style with the conversation, or are you going to give them questions ahead of the time? And a lot of times the questions they get ahead of time, they don't answer. They get on some different tangent. So that's a whole other conversation itself.
And then also, you remember, you got to pray to the blab gods that it won't go complete on you.
Exactly. There's only so many things that you can control. And then you got to have the conversation, and you got to pray to the Lord that they are good guests.
Mm-hmm.
And then it depends. Now with blabs, if you want to, you can edit in some sort of software, whatever you want to use after, or you can just go ahead. If you're doing podcasting, that's a whole other story, because it's the same thing. Believe it or not, every podcast that I've posted on the Dr. Vibe Show site, I have listened to after it's done. So if I'm doing a podcast, it's an hour. Minimum amount of time I've spent on that, minimum, is 2 hours. Minimum, not even 2 hours, 3 hours. Because if I'm listening to it again, I got to listen to it, edit, get a post, etc. So if you want to do this and you want to make money,
sorry, that's my dog.
Get off the blab right
You
now,
can hear-
please.
So let's go. So
Well, I'm glad it's your dog, not gas. So you know,
Wow.
what my girl, Deanna, I was waiting to hear that. I was waiting to hear that tonight.
Change the subject.
I'm going down.
She said we all
All
know
right.
that blab can perform less than optimal and be glitchy.
What's her?
She said, what do you do when a guest gets can't get on and gets on anything? Oh, sorry, I'm sorry, or gets on and things go haywire. Put on my glasses.
Okay, so if and Rashim, I think you're in the process of hosting a show in the near future, which I'm really excited about that. And if you need any help with that, that's great. Okay, ahead of time, do a blab test. When it's live, there isn't much you can do, because again, that's their platform. So just work with it. So you've got to just work with what you got. Now, another alternative, again, I don't care if I'm on Blab or not. You may want to start some. You were going to ask me platforms. There's some other platforms that I'm looking into, and I'll say that I've looked into Fire Talk. I've looked a bit into Huzza. The thing about Blab, especially, that's nice still, is the interactivity and the ease for people to get on.
Mm-hmm.
I used Google Hangouts for a while, and the thing is, when I wanted to get people to use a Google Hangout, it was an effort. The major advantage that Blab has over Google Hangouts is the ease for people to get involved and engage in a conversation and come on live. You know,
organic.
As long as they got a decent working computer, preferably directly connected to the internet, they use Chrome, they have a Twitter account, they're good to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the organic traffic, yeah.
And the thing is, and it also is a great selling point for your guests that come on, how easy it is. Because they've never heard, remember, they've never heard of something like Blab before, right? So you're the expert. If it's a hard experience for them, that has an impact on that interview or that conversation. Saying, man, it took us so much work to get it on. Again, it depends how much of a relationship you have with that other person. But some people that you haven't met before, if it's difficult for them, it can potentially affect richness of the conversation you're going to have with them online.
Now, I have one last question, and then we're going to say our goodbyes, and then we'll start our after show.
Yep.
Is the origin of being called Dr. Vibe. Have you ever put that out there?
Yeah, people have asked me periodically about that, and it gets back to the story when I was working for that major record label.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, that's another story too. I was the first person of color hired in a significant marketing position at a major record label in Canada.
Oh, wow.
To the point where they gave me, I demanded and got the empowerment to release a compilation CD of urban hits from people like Guy, Shantae Moore, etc., that sold 100,000 copies in this country.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. What year was that?
Oh, that's going back. Actually, and another thing too, just thinking about, and actually I have a poster of that and of that achievement. So my thing is, when I got involved, especially in the entertainment and the athletics industry, I didn't want to be a performer or the end product. I wanted to be a decision maker, to prove to people that we could make good decisions and, more importantly, make them money. We were the experts. We could deliver. I like being a barrier breaker.
Mm-hmm.
Very important. Even more so today, we still got to think there's a lot of things that certain people think that we cannot do. We can do it. We got to show them that we can do it. Going to the Dr. Vibe story. When I was working at Adidas and working at this label, one evening they had a Christmas party at Adidas, and the tunes were just slamming. And I was getting into it at the turntable. Actually was doing some DJing, and a product manager said, "Man, you got the vibe, man. You're Dr. Vibe."
And it was born.
There it was born. And this is how crazy I am about it. When I go to events and they ask you to put on the name tag,
Yeah, I like it. I love it.
And the reason why I put it on is there are people say, is that your real name? And it's a conversation starter. They're inquisitive, and it just starts conversation. How did you get that name? Why did you get that name? Bang, bang, bang. So it allows me to share my story, and it gets interest up. So that's a Dr. Vibe. That's how it started. He's got that vibe. You're Dr. Vibe. I actually remember the gentleman who gave me that name, Stuart Smith. He was a product manager at Adidas at that time.
Well, Dr. Vibe, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been an excellent conversation, and first of many. I'm sure we're going to have you back on to chop it up about specific topics. But we had an origin story first. We always like to do that origin story about our guests, and then we have them come on and we talk specific topics. So first, how can people find more about what it is that you do? What's your website, and give us your social media as well.
Okay, website I'm typing in right now. Very simple, the drvibeshow.com. Everything basically, you can get contact from there. The Twitter handle is on the blab here. Whenever I put I'll do it a different way about my email address, because when I pull it out in full, blab doesn't show it. So I'm going to put at
DR Vibes at DR Vibe Show for the people who are watching on video. They're listening to the podcast.
Oh, can I share one more story?
Sure, please do.
Can I? Okay, and this in unison in what both of you are doing, working as a Black man and Black woman together. I'm very blessed to have periodically we'll do mastermind groups, and there was a lady about 4 years, this is 3 years ago now, Marie Roker Jones, who has a great called Raising Great Men, which is all about helping raise boys to become great men. We were chatting, said, Dr. Vibe, you should get on the Good Men Project. I said, Marie, I have no idea what the Good Men Project is. He says, go there. It's a site dedicated to men, big backgrounds, colors, etc. So I said, all right, let me just throw some stuff at them, some programs, and see what they say. 2 weeks later, one of their editors calls me on Skype from a cafe in Singapore. Dr. Vibe, love your stuff. When do you want to put your stuff on our site? We need it, etc. Okay. Not realizing until then, the Good Men Project is one of the most viewed sites in the world for men. They get 5 million page views a month and 3 million unique visitors a month. I can put anything on that site of my conversations that I want. I'm the only online show that is allowed to post consistently on that site. And if people don't believe me, go to the About in the Good Men Project session. You will see my name and my email address. So what I'm sharing, one thing I'm sharing here is a key thing, especially on your way up, profitability and credibility. Once I started being able to attach myself with the Good Men Project, opportunities started going like crazy. Oh man, you're affiliated with a site that has 5 million page views and 3 million unique hits? Yeah. 3 million unique visitors? Yeah. Oh man, you must be really good. Or they must really trust in you. And remember, I've never met anyone physically from that site. But the credibility started happening, and now I'm being blessed through other opportunities, sharing opportunities. I don't like to speak, I like to share. So I share with audiences. That's a whole other conversation topic. And I'm getting financially remunerated for it. My goal when I was starting this journey was not to get paid. My payment was providing that environment for people to share their stories, to help, encourage, empower, enlighten, entertain them, to hopefully make them a little better each day. So Good Men Project has helped me with that. I've been doing a manhood show for 2.5, 3 years every Tuesday night at 8:30. I could go on, but we'll save it for other conversations. So I just wanted to show another example of sharing and relationships with people. You don't know where it's going to get you. And I'm here to help.
So Kiana, how can people reach you on social media? Tell us about Happy Work Week.
Okay, well, I want to thank you once again, Dr. Vibe. Thank you so much. Thank you. But you guys can find me across the board on most platforms at Happy Work Week. You can go to happyworkweek.com and groups. Have a group on Facebook, which is facebook.com/group/Happy Work Week. We do the Work Week Challenge, and we have a lot of fun doing it. We're learning about ourselves. So, Kente, how can people find you on social media?
You can get me on Twitter at KenteF, or you can go to our website. It's called indyradio.org. That's INDY radio.org. Also, too, I'm so happy that we have Dr. Vibe here, as well as all the wonderful people that are in our chat room. And I want to acknowledge we have people who are also podcasters and video streamers in our chat room. I'm going to start from the right. I see we have Dante. He does streaming, business streaming. We have C. Will does the same. We have Rasheem as well as Steph, who they do podcasting or video streaming. In the chat, they're saying they're going to do podcasts as well. We have Gerald as well, who does a Blab show, and he was a former guest of this program. And we also have Ahmed. And I want to tell people that I've started a Facebook group. We just started it. It's called the PVS Alliance, and what it is the Podcasters and Video Streamer Alliance, and it's a way that we can help support each other. you know, by you could post in the group in the event section as well as on the actual page, and whenever your podcast is. And it's a way for not just people who do podcasting or video streaming or YouTube content as well, people who like to watch it as well. They can find out when we're doing our shows, and at some point I'm going to have a calendar of all of our stuff there. And plus I am using that to tweet out when people who are posting their shows coming on, I'll tweet it out using the PV Alliance Twitter handle. So that is the group. Feel free to join the group and feel free to post. And make sure that you follow us on Twitter. Of course, you can follow this show, and it is B Empowerment 365, as well as you can like us on Facebook as well. So, and I'll put that in the chat room, and it's also in the show notes as well. So if you're listening to the podcast, just look in the description and you see all this information listed. So, you know, this is just a way so that, and actually the idea came out of a conversation I had with Dr. Vibe. So, you know, we were just talking about how we can do our shows and not kind of run into each other. And so this is a way that we can do that as well as support each other, because, you know, I don't believe in competition when it comes. I'm a competitive person when it comes to sports, you know, video games, Uno, whatever. But when it comes to this, I'm not competitive in that regard. I just want to do the best possible work that I can do, and I want to be in support. I don't play spades, but I do play dominoes and I play poker. But when it comes to this, I'm not competitive. I want to help and suspect.
Yes, she is cracking me up. I'm sorry. I'm trying to behave. She is misbehaving.
Yeah, I saw the cabin.
I'm not competitive. Some people are listening to audio podcasts like, what are they talking about? You know, I want to support others in their endeavors. So that's one way to do it. So please feel free to go ahead and join and like the Facebook page, and I will do my best to help in the efforts of promoting your programs. So with that said, we will.
Can I fit in one more quick thing? Sunday nights,
of course.
Sunday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern time. I host and produce a conversation called "Do You Know What Time It Is?" What it is basically I get 4 or 5 black men, the live audio podcast, and I drop about 5 or 6 news stories, and they give their commentary 1 hour. And I've been doing that show for about 3 years. And I did not essentially want to do that show. It came from a discussion. Said, Dr. Vibe, let's do it. It's probably the only show out there where black men weekly give their comments on news and current events. And one other quick thing, the last Thursday of each month, I do a live audio podcast called Dr. Vibe Allies, where black men from England, Canada, and the United States live, they will pick a topic and discuss it for 2 hours.
Wow. I love it. Hey, I love it. So we will see you next week with an all new episode. You guys have a great weekend, and God bless.